Daedric Armor. Have you ever wanted to wear armor made from the essence of a Daedra to run around in black and blood-red magnificence? Of course you have. I mean, every Elder Scrolls player has at some point been frothing over the idea of acquiring such armor. Daedric has always been the most powerful and coveted armor in the Elder Scrolls series by both the players and the inhabitants of Tamriel within the context of the lore. In the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind especially, finding Daedric armor was a challenge and a half, and when you finally achieved a full set, you felt like a god, especially considering that the path to Daedric often included you killing a 4,000-year-old Telvanni master wizard. Now, recently on the channel we've been diving deeper into the Elder Scrolls lore and investigating the use of many different peculiar and fantastical armor and weapon types. Armor made of glass, armor made of ice, armor made of bone, armor made of bugs, and even armor made from mythological metals that find their origin in our real world. Many of these are substances that really do exist on Earth, but obviously in a far less fantastical capacity. So today, we are looking into the sought-after Daedric armor and weapons. But what exactly is Daedric, why is it so powerful, and how is it made? What is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Scott from FudgeMuppet, and today I'm going to help you answer all of these questions. So, let's begin. Now, unlike most other materials that we've discussed on the channel thus far, which by the way, links to those videos are in the description, Daedric is clearly not a real material, so there will be hardly any real-world precedents for us to build upon. However, there are a few instances within our Earth's mythology as well as more contemporary fiction where we encounter weapons or items imbued with the soul or essence of people, gods, or mythical creatures, so it's not an entirely unheard of concept. But since there is nothing in the real world to really compare it to, let's start with what exactly Daedric is in the Elder Scrolls lore, and we'll get into how it's made. So, Daedric armor is one of the strongest types of equipment known to known. It does not always have a consistent appearance, but mortal eyes usually perceive it as black with the occasional shade of red. Now, there are various accounts as to what goes into the creation of this godly armor. If we were to ask Gareth Muck Gromuzgub, an Orcish smith, very knowledgeable about armor and weapon types of Tamriel, he would tell us, Daedric weapons are made from raw ebony which has been refined using the craft and magical substances of the lesser minions of Oblivion. The process is not a pleasant one for the Daedra involved, and the weapons retain echoes of preternaturally prolonged suffering endured during manufacture. Daedric weapons are the most rare and expensive weapons known in Tamriel. In the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, we can learn to make Daedric items ourselves, and the creation of such equipment falls in line with the most common consensus that to make Daedric, a material called ebony and a Daedra heart is used. The Daedra heart could very well be what Gareth Muck said was the magical substances of the lesser minions of Oblivion. But what is interesting about this is that the act of creating Daedric is said to be painful for the Daedra involved, and the weapons retain echoes of the suffering. So when you are using that Daedra heart to create your Daedric sword, the Daedra that owns the heart must undergo some kind of terrible suffering other than its death. Because remember, when you kill a Daedra, it returns to Oblivion. But perhaps if you keep its heart and then bind it to a weapon, it creates some kind of suffering purgatory for the Daedric creature, being stuck in a weapon, unable to properly reform in Oblivion. However, that is just a little bit of conjecture on my part based on what Gareth Muck said. Anyways, let's break down the components of Daedric. First, we have the base, the principal material, the ebony. We've actually made a video called The Truth About Ebony, which is linked in the description if you desire to watch it in full, but I will explain here what exactly ebony is. So ebony, the black metal, is not a real-world substance. In our own real world, ebony is a type of hard black wood commonly used in the creation of pianos. But in the Elder Scrolls, this metal is actually a god's blood. During the Dawn Era, way back when the realm of Mundus was being created, Auriel punished Lorkhan's treachery by shooting his heart into the sea. A volcano called Red Mountain formed around the heart in addition to the land of Vvardenfell. The blood that poured from his heart spread across Tamriel and crystallized to form the substance known as ebony, hence why Vvardenfell is such an abundant source of ebony, being so close to the heart of Lorkhan. So now you know the metal substance called ebony is actually the crystallized form of Lorkhan's blood. So ebony is a god's blood. A traditional set of ebony armor or weapons made of ebony are strong and powerful in their own right, but it takes it to a whole new level when you bind the heart of a Daedra to this crystallized blood, and you end up with a product far more powerful. Now, to answer the question, how is it actually made? We get that you bind a Daedra heart to ebony, but how exactly do you do that? Well, the book Heavy Armor Forging by Sven Two Hammers, which can be found in Skyrim, offers some insight. I can only tell you tales of how to make Daedric armor. I have never seen it myself, nor do I know anyone that has. The stories say that it should always be worked on at night, ideally under a new or full moon, and never during an eclipse. A red harvest moon is best. Ebony is the principal material, but at the right moment, a Daedra heart must be thrown into the fire. You can already see that there is a lot of myth and folklore that surrounds the creation of this rare Daedric armor, as in the game Skyrim you can forge Daedric armor anytime and produce the same results, contrary to the idea that say it should only be worked at night. It is, however, very likely that there is a lot of variation in the exact method that goes into the creation of Daedric armor, especially since Daedric has appeared in many different forms. For example, the difference between the Daedric armor of Skyrim, Oblivion, and Morrowind. But even within Morrowind itself, you can see that there are 3 different Daedric helmets: the Face of Inspiration, the Face of Terror, and the Face of God, all of which must have some difference in their creation. It seems that the creation of Daedric armor isn't as simple as molding the metal into the shape that you want either. The creation has an agenda of its own. The binding of the Daedra to the ebony metal causes what is referred to as a corruption. And one must remember that Daedra in essence are chaotic, and the corruption that the binding of the Daedra heart causes is likely to take on different forms fitting in with their chaotic nature. The book Crafting Motifs 14, Daedric, by Saifij Hijja, offers valuable insight into the nature of Daedric equipment. The Daedra, as the professor has so often remarked, are creatures of chaos, entities of great energy and force, but entirely lacking in originality. They can imitate, they can exaggerate, and they can corrupt, but they cannot create anything new. That is a capability inherent only in the Aedra and in we mortals of Nirn, to whom they gave it as a gift. Thus the armor and weapons of such Daedra as the Dremora, Zivali, and Golden Saints, what Dr. Lupus calls the humanoid Daedra, consist of familiar Tamriel-style kisses, breastplates, and pauldrons, swords, spears, and bows. They may to our eyes be ornamented with outlandish spikes and melodramatic flourishes, but look inside the suit of Daedric armor and you'll find the familiar padding and straps that enable it to be worn by anyone of conventional shape. Pick up a Daedric sword, and despite its bizarre shape, you will find the grip comfortable, the heft well balanced. So what is even more interesting is that it seems that the, quote, unrealistic shape of Daedric armor and weapons is just some kind of chaotic Daedric illusion, and in the words of Todd Howard, it just works. It seems that in the corruption of armor and weapons, they no longer abide by the same laws of the Daedric world of order, instead abiding by the rules of chaos, which in itself is a contradiction because there are no rules of chaos. Hence, Daedric armor and weapons can look however the hell they want and still be just as functional as the other armor and weapon types of Nirn, which in fact explains a lot. It explains how the serrated and jagged crazy demon weapons don't get caught in every single strike, or aren't completely non-usable because they look so unbalanced. It also explains the uneven armor design that, when abiding by the rules of reality, would be awful to wear, but instead it's just as comfortable as any other armor. Another key thing is vision. Look at the eyes of all the Daedric helmets, especially Oblivion's design. Vision was definitely not a consideration in the design, and it presumably doesn't have to be, because if we were to follow the same train of thought that is applied to the comfort and balance of Daedric equipment despite its shape, then perhaps the same applies to visibility from the helmet. Despite the fact the helmet has only 2 tiny peepholes to see through, the user still has fantastic vision, because guess what? This is Daedric armor, and Daedra don't listen to the rules of order and reality. They are all about chaos. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the most overpowered type of armor and weapons in the game. Let's recap. First, you have Ebony, which is already super powerful because it is actually crystallized God's blood. Then you bind a Daedra heart to the creation, resulting in a chaotic corruption of the item, causing it to become far stronger and look far more badass, while still retaining complete balance, comfort, and possibly vision despite its appearance, because the rules of reality can go to hell. I hope you guys enjoyed learning all about the creation of Daedric weapons and armor. Like the video and do tell me down below which piece of Daedric armor and which Daedric weapon do you like most from all across the Elder Scrolls games. I personally like the Daedric Face of Inspiration from Morrowind and also the Daedric Spear, but I also love the Daedric Sword, Greatsword and Daggers of Skyrim. So to be honest, it's all pretty badass, but still pick a favorite and let me know down below. Also, do suggest what armor video you would like to see next. My name is Scott from FudgeMuppet. Thank you so much for watching, and I will be back to nerd out with you again next time.